ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರುಭ್ಯೋ ನಮಃ. ಹರಿ ಓಂ. ಯೋಂತ ಪ್ರವಿಶ್ಯ ಮಮ ವಾಚಮಿಮಾಂ ಪ್ರಸುಪ್ತಾಂ ಸಂಜೀವಯತ್ಯಖಿಲ ಶಕ್ತಿಧರ ಸ್ವಧಾಮ್ನಾ ಅನ್ಯಾಂ ಚ ಹಸ್ತಚರಣ ಶ್ರವಣತ್ವಗಾದೀನ್ ಪ್ರಾಣಾನ್ನಮೋ ಭಗವತೆ ಪುರುಷಾಯ ತುಭ್ಯಂ. ಆಚಾರ್ಯಃ ಪವನೋಸ್ಮಾಕಂ ಆಚಾರ್ಯಾಣಿ ಚ ಭಾರತಿ ದೇವೋ ನಾರಾಯಣ ಶ್ರೀಶಃ ದೇವಿ ಮಂಗಳ ದೇವತಾ. So first of all, wish you all a happy Madhvanavami. It is indeed so gratifying to see that people who are living in another country in such an inclemental weather are celebrating Madhvanavami on this day. Of course, Madhvanavami was, as per the calendar in India, it was on Sunday, and I think in the US it was celebrated on Saturday as per the geographical location. But it is very, very gratifying for everyone to see how Madhvacharya remains so relevant even today. And that's not a small achievement. So today, if you're thinking about Sri Madhvacharya and wanting to know more about his life and works, it's indeed a testimony to how strong the basic foundations of the philosophy continue to be even today. Madhvacharya is called Vishwaguru. That means his influence and his teachings are sought after in in the entire universe. And a small testimony of that is the fact that people from all the countries today claim to be his disciples. Whatever he has presented to us as Madhvacharya, propagated by himself, his disciples, and the great Haridasas, have all actually been reaching every home in this world. So today we are here for a lecture that will look at the dawn of a new world, the dawn of a new philosophy in the world, and we'll specifically look at some life and works of Sri Madhvacharya. I am aware I joined you in the discussion yesterday with Sri Prabhandhanacharya, our Guru, and I know he has covered a lot of ground, a lot of parts of the Sumadhva Vijaya, which is Sri Madhvacharya's biography, as we know. But today, what we'll try to do is to pick out some of the lessons that are there for us from those incidents. Because great men are like that. Whenever you look at a great tennis player, for example, it is not just how he gives a backhand shot, but also the way he wears his jacket, the way he holds the racket, the way he moves, the way he does his stretch exercises. Everything serves as a lesson for someone who is wanting to pursue learning tennis. Similarly, Madhvacharya's life and works, there is a message at every step for all of us, and which we can adopt in today's life. So today's agenda is, first we will look at the Guru and the importance of a Guru. Evolution of the philosophies in the world. How did the different philosophies evolve in this world? And then we look at Sri Madhvacharya's uniqueness and the Bhakti movement that he propagated in India. We will have a very brief look at his works, and lastly look at Madhva philosophy that we are, that we see it today. And of course, at the end of today's session, what you should be able to do after you've learned these lessons and lessons from other lectures as well is to recognize Sri Madhvacharya's position, and very unique position in the world of philosophy. He truly is someone who is extremely unique in the way he's propagated philosophy, and we will see what is his position. We will learn some details of his life. Today, the time is too short for us to look at every aspect of his life, but certain aspect we will definitely look at. And his works during his incarnation, and I think very importantly from our point of view, also be motivated to visit those places during your next visit to India, or if you're already in India, you should try and visit those places. Of course, once the pandemic has settled down and is gone away, it is amazing that for nearly 800 years, these places exist today. They have been preserved to the best of the ability, and each time that we visit these places or revisit these places, they just get better. So with that, let us start with the first topic, which is about the guru and the philosophical evolution. So if we just look at how philosophy has evolved, the philosophy has evolved through multiple ways. So if you look at on the left you on the slide, you will see a series of people who what we call as who are proponents of what we call as the Western philosophy, largely because of the geography and the fact that it had influence coming predominantly from Christianity. On the right side, you will see the Oriental philosophy, which starts with the Vedas, which are undated. That means they are apaurusheya or something that nobody ever created. They always existed. So there is no date on which these were written. These always existed. And from then on came the Buddhist philosophy, the Jainism philosophy that we see today. We're looking at Kapila Shastra, the Nyaya Vaisheshika school. These were the schools which emerged from the time, and they have tried to explain philosophy in their own ways. And then there came the famous Trimatastha gurus, starting with Sri Shankaracharya and then followed by Ramanujacharya, and finally Madhvacharya. Why do we say finally? We say finally because after Sri Madhvacharya's incarnation, there has never been another school which posed any serious challenge or something that disputed what Madhvacharya said in a serious way. Yes, there were objections, there were some questions raised, but they were answered by Sri Madhvacharya's illustrious disciples like Sri Jaitirtha, Sri Vyasaraja, Sri Raghavendra Swamiji, Sri Vadirajara, Sri Vijayendra, and so on. And therefore, every time there were disputes, they were countered, and with in a healthy intellectual debate, it was explained how Sri Madhvashastra is the true form of philosophy. Of course, as I keep looking at it, everybody, every philosopher in this picture that you see has made a very honest attempt to explain the philosophy that he thought was right. So there is nothing right or wrong. Everything has got debated, and then people came to their own conclusions. Very much like the scientific theories that we all know, which have evolved over a period of time. So that is the philosophical evolution. But whatever they did three things. That some few things were absolutely common between all of them. One is that they all debated God. Who is God? And what is the nature of God? What is the world that He has created? And what is the nature of the soul? So which is me or I. So there is God, there are the souls, and there is the world. And what is their true nature? And what are their interconnections? How are they interrelated? Who is dependent on whom? Who creates what? And so on and so forth. And our charter in this life and beyond is the other topic that we discuss. Saying, okay, this is the God, and they might have defined it in their own ways, and this is the world or the Jagat, and this is the soul or me or the Jiva. So with this, I am the Jiva, I am the soul. What is my relationship to the God, and what is my relationship to the world? And very importantly, what do I do with this body of knowledge? I've learned all of this, but what is the relevance of this to the entire world? And therefore, what do I need to do from tomorrow morning and to seek God or to seek salvation and so on? So these were the topics that were, if I may say, is the actual philosophical charter. And all the illustrious thinkers who came, and we saw that in the previous slide, all of them are people who have pursued this philosophical charter very, very accurately. So with that, we move to the next topic, which is definition of a guru. Because the first thing you want to do when you are trying to pursue a philosophy or anything for that matter is definition of a guru. And this is very, very critical. It's extremely critical. All of us know, or let me put it this way, is there anyone who thinks that they can play any sport or learn anything in their life without a teacher? Impossible. The place that teachers occupy in our life is extremely profound. All of us remember that one maths teacher who taught us in primary school or high school, who absolutely motivated us towards learning something with all the interest. We also remember that teacher who taught us science, who did not motivate us but took us on the wrong path in the science, and therefore in many ways our understanding of many basic concepts might have got disturbed, only to be corrected later when we realized what we were doing was wrong. So the right guru takes us to the right destination, the wrong guru takes us to the wrong destination. It's as simple as that. So the Shastras have their own ways of defining what is the guru. So a guru is someone who is knowledgeable. Asamshaya samshaya chit. That means he should be free of doubts. He is knowledgeable and he is free of doubts, and he is able to clarify others' doubts. One who shows the path which is full of scientific analysis and not blind beliefs. So everyone, if anybody says, just follow me blindly, I know where I'm taking you, that person is not the right person. He's actually cheating us because he's not telling us where he's taking us. Then someone who is a magnanimous giver and not a taker. The guru actually gives us gnana or knowledge, which is the ultimate wealth in this world. Today we live in a world which is run by knowledge economy, and we know the power of knowledge. Look at an economic superpower, a military superpower like the United States, for example. How did the country become so strong? It is because of the power of knowledge that it is able to bring to the world and to itself. So knowledge is always power. Spiritual knowledge is even bigger power, because that deals with not only the world that we are able to see, but the world which is beyond us. The philosophy starts where science ends, as they say. So he's a magnanimous giver. So guru, the word guru means big. So someone who is very big, who is magnanimous, who is big in his heart, and he never seeks anything. All of us are a part of Sri Raghavendra Swami Mutt in Chicago and allied areas. Have you ever heard of Sri Raghavendra Swamiji asking someone anything? Never. He never sought anything in his life, even when he was put under a state of extreme poverty. So therefore, it is Sri Madhvacharya fits into this definition because he is a giver. He's always been giving, never to seek anything from anybody. So gives light and destroyed darkness. The biggest darkness is not the darkness which is caused because of absence of light. It is a darkness which is caused because lack of knowledge. So the moment there is knowledge, there is brightness. Let us say there's a patient who's sick. Immediately the doctor comes and immediately there is brightness everywhere, because now we found the cure for that particular disease and the man is going to be cured. So anyway, whenever we are in trouble, knowledge actually helps us to come out of that situation. So gu in Sanskrit means darkness. Ru means someone who destroys that darkness. So guru means someone who destroys darkness. And how do you destroy darkness? It's very simple. You just have to light a lamp. And that lamp is nothing but the Gnana Deepa, or the light of knowledge, which glows in our heart and which brightens the world around us. And has the backing of a tradition. A guru has to have a tradition, a past, and a lineage. Why is this important? We may think, oh my God, that means nothing new can ever emerge. On the contrary, it is new thing can only emerge on a strong foundation. All of us know in the city of Dubai, there is Burj Khalifa. They built the world's tallest building. So do we know, what is the most important decision that one has to make when he has to build a building? It is how deep the foundation has to be. So Burj Khalifa, they spent years together designing the building, of course, but very importantly thinking about what kind of foundation is required for that building to stand on, so that it can stand the test of time against the ravages of the weather, the wind, and everything else that progressively weakens it. And that is a very crucial decision. So therefore, Tradition is a very strong foundation on which we have to build what build the edifice of the future. So therefore, when we look at Guru, he has to be somebody who has a tradition, and no one other than Madhvacharya expresses it so beautifully. If you look at his works, the Sarvamoola Granthas, all of them are founded on very, very strong basis of the Shastras, the Moola Shastras. So if you look at the structure of his text, we'll see that later about how he has actually presented it. It is 60% of that is actually quotations coming from other authentic sources. So therefore, he doesn't propagate the Madhva Shastra to be something of his own, but something that he had that always existed, and he is representing it in the current context, and to overcome the doubts, the drawbacks of several other schools of philosophy which came before him. So therefore, a guru has to have tradition and a lineage. Why do people go and study in an Ivy League school, for example? It's done because it's got a tradition. It's got a noted track record of success of imparting knowledge. So that is why we have the structures. The guru has to have the tradition. And largely, is someone who guides us in the true path in our pursuit of God. The world that is there in front of us itself has so many intrigues in it. Just imagine the spiritual path, which is absolutely dealing with the world beyond. The uncertainties are more. And therefore, we need someone who really has understood and who has tread this path before us to actually clear that path for us all the way. And that guru is Sri Madhvacharya. And in the sessions that we'll have later, we will look at more on this topic about why Sri Madhvacharya is a true guru. That is why we say Acharya Srimad Acharya Santume Janma Janmani. He's a teacher not just for this birth, but in all our births. And we pray God that He becomes our Guru so that we always is there to take us on the right path. So that is the definition of a Guru that we have. So let us start with the story of Sri Madhvacharya. Every sentence, every letter in Sumadvijaya is absolutely exhilarating about his story. The story of Sri Madhvacharya starts in the Sri Ananteshwara temple in Udupi. So all of us know Udupi is very famous for the Sri Krishna temple, but before the Sri Krishna temple was there, there is the historic Ananteshwara temple. And the Ananteshwara temple, which is hardly 10 meters from Sri Krishna temple, it is where the Madhvacharya started. So you can see the pillar which stands even to this day. The pillar stands in front of a temple which is called Ananteshwara. So it is Ananteshwara, Ananta Padmanabha, who has taken incarnation in that form, and he exists in the form of a linga. So there is a misconception that if it's a linga, it has to be Lord Shiva. A linga is a structure, and Lord Narayana actually is present in that form in the Sri Ananteshwara temple. So that is also the family deity of Sri Madhvacharya's ancestors. So on one day, when there was a big festival going on, thousands of people had gathered in the Ananteshwara temple, and there was a man who was considered to be slightly lunatic. He had very erratic behavior otherwise on the street, but suddenly he climbed the pillar, and on top of that, he actually danced to perfection. And everybody was stunned that somebody who appeared to be mentally deranged, how could he actually start dancing on top of a pillar so well? And that was his way of attracting attention to make a very important announcement, where he said that Lord Vayu is going to be born in this region, and he is the one who is going to take us on the right spiritual path. So in many ways, the birth of Sri Madhvacharya was actually premonitioned by him, and everybody knew that something like this will happen. But at that festival also were Sri Madhvacharya's parents who had come there, and they began a long 12-year long tapassu, I can say it, because they adopted what is called payovrata. That means you need to drink 1 glass of milk in the morning, and that is all that you eat or drink throughout the day. The milk is first offered to God, and then they drink it, and throughout the day they remain in a fasting position for 12 long years. Imagine the great sacrifice that they made, and as a result of that, Sri Madhvacharya was born. So this is the starting of the story of Sri Madhvacharya. There we can see the person dancing on top of the pillar, and then on the right side you can see the picture of Sri Madhvacharya's parents praying to Sri Ananteshwara to grant them a child, as they did not have children. So with that, next to the Ananteshwara temple, want to also add that there is a Chandramauleshwara temple, a beautiful temple of Lord Shiva, which is just opposite to Ananteshwara's temple and also opposite to the Sri Krishna temple. So that completes the Udupi picture of the start of Sri Madhvavatara. So where was Sri Madhvacharya born? But Sri Madhvacharya was born in Pajaka Kshetra. And what is very special about Pajaka Kshetra is that it has two very big and very prominent temples. The temples are not big in size, but they have a lot of history behind them. One is the Parashurama Devasthana, and the other one is Durga temple, the Kunjaragiri Durga temple, which is on the right of the Parashurama Devasthana. So when you travel and if you have to visit Pajaka Kshetra, and I really request all of you to do that the next time you visit India, is that you will find the Parashurama Devasthana on the right side, and on the left, on two separate hills, you will find another temple of the Durga. Both the temples are absolutely serene. They're very, very quiet, and right in the middle of the wonderful cradle of trees, absolutely abundant with all the serenity of the place of two divine entities. One is Sri Parashurama Devaru and the other one is Durga. So this is the Pajaka Kshetra, and below that, and this is of course the temple, the Udupi chariot that is there. That's very, very typical of that place. And there, on at the bottom of that hill, a little away from that, is the Sri Pajaka Kshetra. Sri Pajaka Kshetra is the birthplace of Sri Madhvacharya. There is the house that he was born has been preserved to this day. Imagine even today, this house exists in the same way that it was when he was born. Of course, they've been modified a little bit, but the basic structure remains the same. Some additional capacity for people to stay has been kept there, but again, it is something which is preserved even to this day. It's a beautiful house, again, very, very calm, very, very quiet. This was where Sri Madhvacharya was born. And this is the place. I will move on the story a little fast because some of you heard it from Sri Madhvacharya, from Prabhanjanacharya yesterday. So this is the place where Sri Madhvacharya actually had his Aksharabhyasa. As we all know, it is a tradition that before the child is admitted to the school, there is a ceremony called Aksharabhyasa, where rice is put on the floor and the child is made to write for the first time by his father holding his hand. So that marks the start of his education. And Sri Madhvacharya, that stone on which the Aksharabhyasa was performed exists even to this day, absolutely intact. So this is where Sri Madhvacharya was born and the Aksharabhyasa was performed, and his father and his mother did it. So it's now become a tradition that young kids are taken there and this Aksharabhyasa is performed on that very stone. It's a small ritual, and if you get an opportunity, do please go visit Pajaka and see this place, which is right next to the temple. So this is the famous Vasudeva Tirtha. There is a small pond which is right behind where the house is. And this pond, along with the three other ponds, form the very famous 4 tirthas This is the Vasudeva Tirtha. I wanted to show you how it looks today. It is a beautiful place, again filled with absolutely crystalline quality water, and people take a bath, and people say that this is a place where Sri Madhvacharya had invoked the presence of Ganga. So people who take bath in this particular pond get the same punya as taking bath in the Ganga itself. Now, this is the other place. It is about again 10 meters from the Bajaka house. This is a spot in which Madhvacharya's footprint can be found. So, beautiful place. Sri Vadarajaru has established an idol of Sri Madhvacharya on top of the feet. The feet are still visible. You can see the feet if you stand outside. There's a picture of that. And inside the small temple, you will find the impression of the feet as well as the idol of Sri Madhvacharya. So we heard the story yesterday. When Madhvacharya, he was called Vasudeva in his Purvashrama. So when Vasudeva was actually in the Durga temple, his mother called him, and he jumped from the Durga temple all the way up to this particular place. And in between, he also killed a demon. That is another place which is between Pajaka Kshetra and the Durga temple. All of them are in very, very close proximity. You can actually walk it up in about 30-40 minutes. You can cover the whole place. So then this is the place which is adjoining. Now it has been converted into a very nice traditional temple. And behind this today actually exists a beautiful hall where the entire Sumadhva Vijaya, all the shlokas, 1008 shlokas, have been etched on the wall. So to make it permanent and accessible to people for many more generations. So this is the famous temple. This is again to give you a glimpse of Sri Madhvacharya's house. You can see the side view of the interiors of the house. It's a traditional South Canara home built predominantly using wood, and it has got all the serenity that only Sri Madhvacharya's birthplace can have. So again, we know the story. Madhvacharya was just 3 years old when his mother told him that, "Dear Vasudeva, I'm stepping out for a few minutes to run some chores. So can you please look after the milk and the curd, etc., so that the animal from outside do not come and consume them and take them away?" So Madhvacharya said yes. And after some time, when his mother actually came, she saw that there was a big boulder sitting there. So she asked Madhvacharya, "Vasudeva, what did you do?" So he said, "Look, I just wanted to ensure that nobody can take the milk and curd away. I've taken this big stone and kept it on earth so that nobody can touch it." Again, I think this is very, very important for us because it is a very strong testimony of Madhvacharya's true avatara, which is that of Sri Vayu. Nobody else has this kind of a lineage and this kind of a spiritual strength to be able to do this. You can see the stone. Even today, it's a very big stone. Stone has been preserved and exactly in that place, which forms the kitchen also of the Pachaka Kshetra. So that is the holy stone on which Madhvacharya himself, has kept it there. This is a big banyan tree right behind the house. The banyan tree stands as a testimony because that was actually planted by Sri Madhvacharya 800 years back. He planted a tree upside down and proved that with the Veda mantras, the tree can actually survive. And the strength that a tree or any soul gets is a spiritual strength. And to prove that, he planted the tree. The tree exists even today, and it's a beautiful place for meditation right behind the house itself. This stone, this small carving temple that you see, has a very unique story. So right next to that is a tamarind tree, and the story is like this: that Madhvacharya's father actually had taken some loan from a money lender, and he could not repay because of his poor financial situation, and he was very distressed about it. So one day, the money lender comes home and to ask for that money. Now, It was not considered a very nice thing that if a money lender, a creditor comes home and asks you for money, it shows that the person was not able to repay, which was considered to be very bad, and something that somebody cannot be really proud of. In this world of credit cards, it's far hard for us to imagine such things, but those were the values that people lived those days. And at the same time, Madhvacharya's mother was told Madhvacharya that go call your father so that I can serve lunch. And immediately his father said, no, I am not in the mood to eat. I'm so distressed and I'm very unhappy that this person is asking me for money and I don't have money to give him. So Madhvacharya realizes his father's distress. He picks up a bunch of seeds from that very tamarind tree, and he picked it up and he gave it to this money lender, and he said, look, sir, this is the money that we don't have money to pay you, but do take this, it'll do you good. The money lender, his name was Karkashetti. He actually looked at this boy and said, look, this boy looks so resplendent, and somehow, though he's giving me the seeds of the tamarind tree, somehow I feel that whatever he's saying has got some value in it. So let me take the seeds home. He takes the seeds home and keeps it in a rack, only to realize later that these were not just ordinary seeds. They had come from the sacred hands of Sri Madhvacharya, and they had actually turned into gold, absolutely settling all the debt that he had, he had given to the loan that he had given to Srimad Vacharya's father. In fact, he gave it more than what he was expecting. So again, that the house of that money lender exists even now, behind Srimad Vacharya's house at a slight distance. So even today, it's a tradition for people who visit the Bajaka Kshetra, say, to get the tamarind seeds from there and keep it in their home, especially a place where they store the valuables in their house, to as a blessing from the Guru, that may we also have the same amount of wealth, and may this wealth never ever end. But the true wealth that Madhvacharya has given are his beautiful Sarvamola Granthas. And those of us who are not able to go there and get the tamarind seed should have no regrets, because what he has given us is actually the Sarvamula Granthas, which are as precious, if not more, than those seeds. Those are symbolic. And in Madhvacharya, in his typical style, says, Nagrahe Tintrini Shaka, Shignu Shaka Grahe Nakim. So he says, whenever you want to adopt philosophy, you should adopt a strong philosophy, not a philosophy which may be famous, but which is inaccurate. So many other forms of philosophy might appear glamorous to us, but we should not go on the basis of the glamour part of it, or just by the fact that something has got communicated well. We have to adopt a form of philosophy because it is something which is enriching and can stand the test of time, test of analysis, and test of explanation. And that is why Madhvacharya says, the tree, which is the drumstick tree, if you have seen, is very big. It is also very white in color, very attractive. But if you go and try to climb the tree is actually hollow. Sometimes it just breaks and falls on the person who's trying to climb the tree. Whereas the tamarind tree is something which appears to be very weak. If you've seen a tamarind tree, the stems are very weak, but they're very strong. So you can actually climb the tree without that snapping. So again, I think the two stories, the story and the message by Sri Madhvacharya are very closely related. Nagrihe Tintrini Shaka. So you have to hold on to a philosophy which is strong, not something which is just glamorous. So that is the famous story of this. Then subsequently, when Madhvacharya was 7 years old, he had a discussion with his father that he wants to accept the sannyasa ashrama. Why did he want to become a sannyasi? He became a sannyasi because that is the ashrama, or that is a form of the society which actually had got the highest amount of corruption at that time, the philosophical corruption. So therefore, he wanted to be a sannyasi so that he can be a Pitadipati and that gives him a right to write the Bhashya on Brahma Sutras. So we'll see the details of his writings in the session tomorrow. But today, it is suffices us to say, learn that he wanted to be a sannyasi, and he went under the tutelage of Achyuta Prekshacharya. Achyuta Prekshacharya was the Pithadipati of what we today know as Bhandaragiri Mutt. The Bhandaragiri Mutt is again another mutt which is very very close to the Shri Krishna temple. It is just 100 meters away. You can still see the Bhandaragiri Mutt. And today, Madhvacharya Mutt is one of the leading mutts in terms of the propagation of the philosophy itself. So, he took the sannyasa ashrama at a very young age of 7 years, and at a very young age, he actually traveled to Badri on his first visit to meet Sri Vedavyasa. And at that young age, he actually offered what is the Gita Bhashya. That was his first grantha, where he wrote a detailed commentary on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So that is the story of his accepting sannyasa ashrama and then going to the Uttara Badri. This is the map of India. So all of us must be wondering what is the story behind this. So this is the story of Lord Krishna's, the establishing Lord Krishna in Udupi, which is the other highlight of Sri Madhvacharya's life. So if you look at the map of India, on the west coast, you have a city of Dwarka. Many centuries ago, this was the place where Lord Krishna lived. And the Queen Rukmini was staying there as well, and she actually prayed to Lord Krishna every day in his Pratyaksha form. But she also had a small idol of Sri Krishna as a young boy, and which she loved, and she would always keep it as in her personal temple. And as a mark of her love, she had taken off her nose ring and put it and offered it to Lord Krishna. So even now, if you see Lord Krishna's photo of Udupi, you'll find nose ring right below the nose like this. We will see that in a few minutes. So the story is that there was a person, there was a guy who was trying to import some goods from the Middle East, what we know as Middle East today. He was buying a lot of product commodities and wanted to sell that to India. And he went to his first stop, which was actually in Gujarat, which is Dwarka. And he offloaded some products which were to be sold there. And the moment you offload something from a ship, the ship becomes lighter. And the moment ship becomes lighter, it starts to swing a lot, and there is always a danger that it might capsize. So what he did was, like it was a practice, he actually picked up all the soil of Dwarika and put it inside the boat, so that the boat does not does not shift or does not toggle too much. So what he did was, he did that, and he started coming down south, sailing and passing by the port of Udupi. At that time, he got caught in a bad storm. The ship was caught in a storm and was about to actually sink inside. Sri Madhvacharya was sitting on the beach of Udupi, which we know as Malpe beach. He was sitting there offering his arnika in the evening, and he saw the ship, and the ship was turbulent in the seas and was about to sink. So he took off his shati, the cloth which is worn on the upper body. He took it and he swung it and asked the sea to calm down. And within few moments, the sea actually calmed down, and the ship was able to dock into the port without any trouble. The captain of the ship, the person who was actually the trader, was extremely happy to be alive and to see the ship had returned safely. And he went to Sri Madhvacharya and told him, "Oh sir, I would like to give you and offer you something." Sri Madhvacharya said, "I am a sannyasi. I have forsaken everything. I don't need anything from you." So he said, "No, you have to take something. I want to offer you something as a token of my gratitude." And that is when he gave him, Madhvacharya said, "Okay, if you have to give something, please give me all the soil that you have put at the bottom of your ship. The sailor was aghast. He said, why would you want to take the soil when I have got such precious things in my ship? He said, you don't know what is there in the soil. That is why you say, just give me the soil if you want to give me something. And the sailor then took the entire piece of that soil and gave it to him. And Madhvacharya picked up that huge block of soil and took it. And everybody was wondering what he was he going to do. And that is when he's supposed to have composed the famous Dvadasha Stotra, a collection of 12 stotras, each of them having several parts of it, which talks about the glory of Narayana, the glory of the world that he has created, and very very important tenets of the Madhva philosophy, beautifully reinforced. Excellent collection of 12 stotras called the Dvadasha Stotra. If you have not had a chance to read them, please read them. There are a lot of resources available on the net for you to actually learn them by heart as well. You recite it a few times, you will automatically get it by heart because of its rhythmic nature. The Dvadasha Sutra is very special because that actually has laid the foundation stone for the entire Haridasa Sahitya to evolve over the year. So that is the story of the Krishna idol being brought, but the real surprise was awaiting everybody. You can see the picture below, which is that of the Madhva Sarovar, a beautiful pond which is right opposite the Krishna temple. In the picture, you can see that it's got absolutely crystalline water. It's been maintained very well, and even to this day, people go take a bath in that particular pond and perform their arnikas next to the pond. So that is a place where Madhvacharya put the entire the lump of soil that he was carrying. And what came, as we know, that the soil, the moment you put it in water, it slowly sort of disintegrates. And inside that, to everybody's surprise, was a beautiful stone idol of Sri Krishna in the form of a boy. And that was the idol that Rukmini had actually prayed to when in Dwarika. That's why if you go to Udupi, it is Rukmini Kararchita, Madhva Kararchita, Sri Krishna. So it is someone who was prayed to earlier by Rukmini and then by Sri Madhvacharya. He took the idol and he has established that in the form of a small temple, which is there in Udupi. The temple is an absolute delight to go to. And again, I am sure all of you will make an attempt to go and visit the temple during your next visit. If you can't, there are a lot of resources which you can see. Every day you can see the kind of alankara or the decoration of the god that they have done on that day through a live picture. So please do see it. And next time you go to Udupi, please make it a point to remember this entire biography of Madhvacharya and the history of the temple that you see. So this is the temple, the way it exists today, with the same glory and the same serenity that it was there 800 years back. All the rituals are practiced exactly in the manner that were ordained by Sri Madhvacharya. We all know Madhvacharya established 8 mutts in Udupi, and all of the mutts take turns for 2 years to perform the puja there, and that whole process is called Paryaya. As we speak in 2021, it is a Paryaya of the Adamar Mutt which is going on currently. So this is the history, which brings me to the next story. And you must be wondering what these are. These are the samadhis of Narayana Panditacharya and Trivikrama Panditacharya. Trivikrama Panditacharya, as we know, is the composer of the very famous Sri Harivayu Stuti. And of course, he has composed many other divine texts on Madhva philosophy. He was one of the earliest commentators on Madhvacharya's work. And on the right, you find the samadhi of Sri Narayana Panditacharya, his son, who gave us the fantastic biography of Sri Madhvacharya, the Sumadhva Vijaya. So this is Sri Trivikrama Panditacharya. There's a long story, Unfortunately, we don't have time today to learn the entire story, but suffice it to say, he was one of the greatest scholars of the Advaita philosophy, and he was someone who was always looking for the right path and to confirm whether whatever he was thinking is the right philosophy, is something that he is actually right, or there seem to be some defects, there seem to be some inconsistencies in which he was reading the Advaita. So therefore he was constantly looking for answers to his questions, and his luck couldn't have been any better when Sri Madhvacharya himself came to the place where he was staying for the Chaturmasa Vrata, which is a 4 month long period in which sannyasis stay at one place, predominantly to ensure that philosophy is spread in that particular area. So Trivikrama Panditacharya sought an opportunity to have a debate with Sri Madhvacharya on philosophical topics. The Sumadha Vijaya has 15 cantos or sargas, and the 15th canto, the last but one canto, actually describes the debate which happened between Sri Madhvacharya and Trivikrama Panditacharya. If you have not read it, please read it. There are a lot of lovely resources available on YouTube where great scholars have explained this, where it's a beautiful debate which talks about every single form of philosophy, the big list that we saw, and many, many more, and what are the inconsistencies and why those do not accurately describe the world, the God and the soul, the way Madhva philosophy does. So that healthy debate, it was a very intellectual debate which went on for 15 long days. You can imagine a debate which went on for 15 long days. Today we don't, the parliament or the senate or the Congress probably does not have so much patience to debate on issues, but the philosophical debate raged for 15 long days. And at the end of it, Madhvacharya clarified all the doubts that Trivikrama Panditacharya had. And finally, Trivikrama Panditacharya accepted those aspects and fell at the feet of Sri Madhvacharya, saying that, yes, finally, I have found the answers to all the questions that I had in my mind. And now I know what is the right path. So that is the history of Trivikrama Panditacharya and Narayana Panditacharya. Again, you get a chance to go there. It's about 140 kilometers away from Udupi. This is called the Kavu Matha, and please do visit that place which is there. So, which brings us to the story of Harivayu Stuti. So, on a day in Badrikashrama, Madhvacharya was praying to Lord Badri Narayana, and he was offering food, the Naivedya. And as is a norm, the Dvadasha Stotras get recited at that point in time. So typically, when once all the 12 shlokas were recited, Madhvacharya would have completed the process of Naivedya and go on to the next set of rituals. But on one day, it just happened that the Madhvacharya did not give an indication, which is the ringing of the bell, that um, the Naivedya process has been completed. So as we know, there is a cloth which is held between the people who are sitting and the person who is performing the Naivedya, because it's a sacred activity and one should not see it. Typically, it is also advised that when one is eating food, nobody else should see that food. So that was the situation, and the Dvadasha Sutra was recited once, it was recited twice, and it was the third time that it got completed, and yet Madhvacharya had not indicated that the process is over. So Trivikrama Panditacharya, out of curiosity and also a little bit of anxiety, wondering what was happening and why the process had not ended, actually went inside and just tried to see from the corner of his eyes what was happening. And to his astonishment, he saw something which was spectacular, which was Hanuman was feeding Lord Rama, and Bhima was feeding Lord Krishna, and Madhvacharya was feeding Vedavyasa. What a sight to watch! Madhvacharya, as we know, is the incarnation of Lord Vayu, and he had three incarnations, the third one being Madhvacharya, the first one being Hanuman himself, and the second one being Bhimasena, and of course the third Madhvacharya. In all the three incarnations, he was feeding Lord Narayana in that particular set of incarnations. It was a stunning sight for him and which absolutely overwhelmed him. And in that spontaneous overflow, he recited the Vayu Stuti, which is a beautiful 41 shloka stotra on Shri Vayu, describing his glories of Shri Vayu in the Mula Rupa, then of course the Hanumat Avatara, the Bhima Avatara, and Madhvavatara. And he has described that, and he went and recited that later in front of Sri Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya was very pleased and said, yes, this is a very accurate description of Sri Vayu, which is himself, and this can be recited and should be recited by all the disciples. And he added two more shlokas of what is called the Nakastuti or the Narsamma Nakastuti, which is a short two shlokas which have to be recited in the beginning and at the end of the entire Vayu Stuti. So together it is called the Hari Vayu Stuti. There is a very interesting story again of Sri Vishnu Sahasranama. All of us know the Vishnu Sahasranama is one of the most sacred shlokas in the world. It is considered the mantra, the shloka Raja, because it is considered the ultimate in terms of the philosophical piece. It is a form of, it's a part of Srimad Mahabharata. The story goes like this, that Madhvacharya was once visiting a part of Kerala, and he was addressing a group of disciples and scholars who had come from various places to listen to him. And Madhvacharya actually said, was he recited a Veda shloka, and he said, look, this is what the meaning of the shloka is. Immediately, one of the persons from the audience stood up and said, sir, you are saying this is the meaning. I have another meaning of the same sukta. And he presents the meaning. And he asked Madhvacharya, which one is correct? Is the one that you are saying, is that correct, or is the one I am saying is correct? Finally, Madhvacharya says, no, both are correct. And that is when the scholar gets astonished. He says, how can both be right? He says, yes, remember, this is a Veda Sukta. So the Veda Sukta is called Trayartha. Veda is called Trayartha. That means there are three meanings to every Sukta in the Vedas. The person was astonished, and so were everybody present there. So we didn't know. Then he said, not only this, the Vedas have three meanings. Every shloka of Mahabharata has 10 meanings, and Vishnu Sahasranama has 100 meanings. So every name of Sri Vishnu which appears has 100 different meanings. Now, the people in the audience were amazed, but some of them were a little skeptical whether Madhvacharya was really saying the right thing. So they challenged him, saying, sir, can you tell us me all the 100 meanings of every word? He said, yes, I will do it. But since you are challenging me, I am also challenging you. I will give you the 100 meanings of the name. After that, you have to repeat those meanings once I have completed. Are you up for the challenge? The people thought, okay, let us try it out, because maybe he had just given a quotation from Skanda Purana to prove his point, but he probably does not know the meanings. And at that point, actually, he started giving them, he said, let us start with the first word, Vishwam. The Vishnu Sahasranama starts with Vishwam Vishnu Vashatkaro. So let us start with Vishwam. And he started telling them meanings one by one. And the people there were simply stunned. It went on for about 30 meanings when Madhvacharya was still going on. And the disciples came and apologized to him. Sorry, when you have reached the 30th meaning, we have forgotten the first meanings. So please, we apologize that we doubted your competency and threw an unfair challenge at you. We are so delighted to know this. And they made, they apologized. So this process continued, and to this day, Sri Vidyamanya Tirtharu, under the aegis of Palimar Mutt, of which he was a pontiff, has actually gone ahead and talked about this particular thing. He has actually done a lot of research and come up with with a beautiful solution to the way, has come up with three beautiful texts which actually explain the Sri Vishnu Sahasranama meaning in detail. So these were certain stories which which brings us back to the Ananteshwara temple. The story of Madhvacharya starts and in many ways ends in this particular place, because this was a place when he was sitting and explaining the meaning of Aitareya Upanishad, when he decided that the time had come for him to end his incarnation as Sri Madhvacharya and leave that place. So never should we say Sri Madhvacharya is dead, because he is not. He is present to this day, still studying under Sri Vedavyasa. The Vedanta Samrajya, the spiritual world, the philosophical world has got infinite expanse, and the learning of philosophy will never end. So therefore, to symbolize that, Madhvacharya is present even now in Uttara Badri, learning from Sri Vedavyasa. This is the spot which is there in the Ananteshwara temple, where one can visit, and that spot is preserved even now, where he was actually seated. I'm talking about, and teaching his disciples the Taittiriya Upanishad. So this is the story of Sri Madhvacharya. I know we are out of time, so all I would like to say is, and we will look at this slide. Maybe we can start with this tomorrow. Madhvacharya is one of the rare gurus who has covered all aspects of philosophy. In his illustrious life, he ensured that he has covered the Vedas, Upanishad, Brahma Sutras, Puranas, in the Prakarana Granthas, the Stotras, the Achara Granthas, Bhagavad Gita, and everything. Don't get overwhelmed by this list. I will talk about it, about the simplicity of these texts in the next few sessions. But what is important for us to know, that his understand his explanation and his coverage of virtually every aspect of spirituality is complete. That's why he's called Purna Prajna. That means someone who knows the philosophy in its entirety. And this is very important, because if you are wanting to learn something from someone, that person should have a complete understanding of the subject and not just tactically know a few pieces of data and information. So let us say you want to admit your child into a high school. We insist that the teacher who is teaching in a high school is a doc is a probably has a post graduation degree, or maybe even has a doctorate. Why do we insist that? Because the person who is teaching has to be at a distinctly higher level of knowledge if he has to teach someone below. Madhvacharya has proven his complete understanding of the philosophical world, and then coming to the conclusions that he gives us in the form of Sarvamula Granthas. His, again, I don't want to rush into this today itself, because we are short of time. I will take this up in the sessions, in tomorrow's session. Let us start with this in terms of his work and the beauty of work that we have. So I'm open to any question and answer that you might have in the process. And also, I think tomorrow, this is tomorrow's agenda. We will look at the building blocks of Madhva philosophy. So when we are talking about the philosophy, what is unique about whatever Madhvacharya said? So what are those building blocks? What is the foundational tenets on which the entire Madhvacharya philosophy is founded? So we will look at a beautiful shloka of Sri Vyasaraja, where he has summarized in very short terms the 9 bullet points that form the cornerstone of Madhva Shastra. So we look at that in greater detail, and that time we'll also revisit these slides about Sri Madhvacharya's style of writing. It is truly great, and there are some stunning things that we will learn tomorrow about the 9 tenets, as well as what his works are. And very importantly, in the end, also look at a few ideas and resources that we can use today to study those texts, because they're available even today, and it continues to enrich our lives. So with those words, I would like to take a pause and see if there are any questions and answers from today's session.